In today's video, we're kicking things off with the basic construction of the Panzer IV-F. I'll walk through some of the key details and changes made to the tank as we get the build rolling. As Arnold would say, stick around. A recent viewer asked for a longer video, and hey, I aim to please. So this one's going to run a bit longer, and if it all works out, I'll try to keep that format moving forward. The plan is mainly a big video on Sundays, with maybe a smaller one dropping during the week. Of course, the hog has me out working 8 to 9 hours a day now, and Instacart is still my main gig, so I'm balancing delivering groceries and delivering models to the channel. Besides filling in the muffler seams, I decided to add my own weld seams. Later on, I'll walk you through exactly how I do that with epoxy putty, but first the kit welds have to go. And with this Tamiya kit, that's a bit of a pain because of the way they molded them on. Oh, and by the way, I'm kind of taking it slow here, kind of showing you without really scribing hard, so there's no danger of me stabbing myself. But when you do this, definitely be more careful, safety first, right? And with that little tip out of the way, I'm using a chisel scriber to cut a shadow channel where the putty will eventually go. This step isn't quite as easy as it looks. I mean, it can be, but not always. With modern kits, the weld seams are usually pretty solid, and this Tamiya kit did a nice job overall, and that was a big click. The problem was a few of them just didn't line up right when connecting the hull and turret parts. So I went ahead and picked some, left others alone for now, but knowing me, I'll probably circle back and redo those later too. It's really just that those welds are tucked away in an awkward spot and molded in a way that makes it extra tricky to clean them up nicely or get them looking good. Alright, we are trying something new on this model kit. Link and length tracks. Okay, I get it. They're a nice addition to a modern kit, and it's nice not to have to get some Friulmodels and have some nice tracks. But they are a bit of a headache to install, especially if you want to paint them and then put them back on. The upper hull gets in the way and can prevent a good connection, and once you've painted them, it just makes the whole process trickier. To make life a little easier, I'm using some liquid mask to hold the road wheels in place temporarily while I work on the tracks. Now, I used to use blue tack, and that was a nightmare trying to get it all removed. I'm trying something a little different this time. I'm not gluing the upper hull until the lower hull, including the tracks and road wheels, is fully painted. And then I'll move on the upper hull, and by carefully removing some of the liquid mask from the glue points, I should be able to get everything together without a hassle. I'm still pretty new to this style of link and length tracks, so I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I mean, do you miss the rubber tracks? I don't. That said, Tamiya has done a solid job with these templates, and the instructions are really clear, showing both left and right side, not just one, is a definite big plus. I mean, just look at that, both sides. Sure, you don't really need it, but hey, it's still really nice to see, and I was quite shocked to see that. Usually I'm used to like a Ryefield just showing you a small little picture of some tracks. This is how Tamiya wants you to glue these tracks. And as you can probably tell, it's not working all that well. It doesn't help that my thin is lower than the brush. Come on, Tamiya, can we get a longer brush here, please? And no clicks? Alright, let's continue the massacre of these tracks. I'll eventually get them, you'll see. Very quickly, I'm going to switch things up and glue these tracks in a different way than Tamiya suggests. I've got 2 bottles of thin, and you might be wondering, why not just pour them together? Well, honestly, I can't remember if it's Tamiya or Plastruck. I know I poured one into one, and I'm not exactly eager to find out with a little glue fume explosion experiment. So, instead of painfully walking you through how to assemble these tracks, which I'm pretty sure most of you already know, I figured we ramble a bit. Most of my viewers are probably around my age, and if I tell you I was watching The Love Boat on prime time, well, I think that says it all. So, I'll be Captain Stubing, and maybe you'll be Gopher? I don't know. Alright, let's continue. And let's ramble. I grew up mostly building Tamiya kits with straightforward rubber tracks, and jumping into these newer kits really threw me for a loop. I recently tackled a Ryefield kit, and oh boy, that was a challenge for me at least. 95,000 sprues, and I definitely needed my glasses and magnifier to keep track of everything. I mean, these kits aren't terribly difficult, but if you're not used to them, then they definitely can be a bit intimidating, but that's modeling today. Sure, you can still enjoy those older kits, sorry. If that's your style, check out my Italy Elephant build in my playlist for a great one. Personally, I'm getting used to these newer kits, and I'm really enjoying the fact that you can put together a solid build without having to spend a fortune on aftermarket parts. The addition of a 3D printer would really up my game and pretty much eliminate the need for all those pesky aftermarket parts. And for the zombie build, well, I could even crank out some skeleton bits for my figures. I do have plans to alter them with some good old school techniques, so make sure you hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss that video. I've been looking at some printers, and if you have any suggestions, please drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys are using. My main holdup is ventilation. I just don't have the right setup yet, and I don't want to fumigate the house. Still, the idea of being able to print just about anything does have its appeal. Extra stowage would be a big plus, and maybe even some custom figures. But for now, it's something I'll save for down the road in the not too distant future. Alright, the rambling session is over. Let's get back to the build. As I give my Tamiya Thin a good shake to finish gluing the top tracks together, I'm going to spare you the full ramble and the madness of the other tracks. Instead, I'll just show you the tracks already assembled and ready to go. I've got to say, this is honestly the best way to assemble these tracks. And of course, it's Tamiya, so I'm not really surprised. Some other kits have been far more difficult, but I'm slowly becoming a convert to this type of track system. I mean, making 400 individual tracks with Friulmodel, that's daunting. You can practically watch an entire season of The Love Boat. Oh my god, I screwed it up. The Love Boat while doing it, and maybe still not finish. Being a bit of a cheapo, I'm using dollar store clamps to glue these tracks in a way that lets me install them after painting. Each side is glued in a sort of an L shape, if you can get that, which makes it much easier to get everything lined up once the paint dries. The glue, once the glue dries. Okay. How can I describe why these mold seams are so difficult? I guess because I'm used to them being like on a model kit in an area where they're easy to remove. These mold seams are like on separate pieces and are on top. So when you connect the pieces together, then you have them, in that one area. So it's difficult. So I'm like, what do? Do I glue them then remove it? I'm trying this, with the knife and trying this tape, which didn't work out all that well because that's pretty thin material. So I'm very easily gonna go through it, and this is the headache I created for myself by doing this, and I should have just left them because they were pretty good weld seams. This is the stage of building a model where if you screw up, you really screwed up. What are you going to do? Throw a big tarp over it? I don't know. So I'm trying to remove the material to get it to the point for once I attach it, I'll have that little channel. But, it was hard. but I end up getting it. And here is a scene where I got it. So once I connected those parts, it created that channel. In some areas I had to do that. In other areas it was more typical, just remove the weld seams and create your channel. So, should you try this step on your own models? Sorry, the hawk is cackling at the kids. I'll tell you at the end, the reward is definitely worth it. Oh my gosh, he's really going at it. But maybe give it a shot on a cheaper kit first. With older kits, the welds aren't always molded in, so it's something that really needs to be done. I need a break and I gotta stop them from cackling. So why don't we take a 38-second break and you can go get yourself a drink. I will be right back.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Alright, I grabbed some nice cool water with ice, though the machine is out, so you might hear it buzzing later. But let's get back to it. And it just hit me why I'm having so much trouble with these seams. It's a smaller tank, and I've mostly only done this on bigger builds. Oh my god, I apparently didn't stop the cackling. With seams, it's a smaller tank, and I said that already. Okay, my last two builds didn't even have seams, and that was a real treat. The armor here is so thin, but like I said, in the end, it's totally worth it. Once the armor plates were installed, and yes, I removed the kit's welds beforehand, I'm using a Tamiya scriber to carve a channel along the plates for the epoxy putty. In some areas I made the channel a little too thin, but since this is a zombie tank, remember, I've got a perfect excuse to add something to hide it. I only use this tool when I really need it, but I usually prefer, oh my god, the chisel tool. I just figured this would help me get a nice straight line first, and then I could go back in with that chisel for the final touches. But I'm happy so far on how things came out. Looking pretty good, and once I get the epoxy putty in there, it should be pretty good. And like I said, it is a zombie tank, and I can hide some of my crimes for sure. But anyway, let's move on to the turret. Now for the turret welds, they're positioned on the sides, so I needed to remove a bit of material to make them slightly lower than the top plate. And I was quite pleased in how this came out. It actually came out perfectly if I can get it on there. Yeah, take a look at that. So you can see that little like V channel, and later in the video I'll add some epoxy putty to that. Apparently later is now, and I used Tamiya epoxy putty to create my weld seams. You just mix part A with part B, and then you've got a limited working time, so don't mix too much at once. It can get frustrating trying to get it all into the channels before it sets. So what I do here is I take a little bit and I twist it all about, and mix it up with my fingers. I don't use gloves. I know you can get fingerprints on this and stuff, but this is so tiny, it's not really something that's going to happen, and you're going to make imprints in it anyway. I always end up having too much anyway, no matter how I try. And by the time I get it into all the channels, the leftover putty has already started to dry out. It'll get to a point where it won't even stick inside the channels anymore. So I take a bit of plastic card and some water and roll the extra into a little noodle to save time later. To save for later. None of this makes sense. I'm rolling out a noodle, okay? And you keep rolling out that noodle, and you're going to want to keep checking. That's way too thick. Keep rolling it out more. And then eventually it'll get too long, but it's still too thick. So you just cut it a little piece, throw that to the side. That's going to dry out later. And add a little water. Always add water because that's going to help it from sticking. And keep rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling. And when you think you have it thin enough, roll it out some more because it's probably going to be too thick. So here I am cutting it, moving it to the side. And I'm going to roll it out even thinner because this is a thinner armored tank. So we need our noodles very, very thin. Sometimes the putty behaves perfectly and goes right into the channel, and other times it fights you tooth and nail. The process, while definitely rewarding, can be extremely frustrating. To help, I use these clay tools to guide it and make sure it seats properly into the channels. Well, apparently we haven't gotten there yet. Or did we? I'm not sure. Alright, here are the clay tools. Silicone clay tools. These are awesome for this. If you're going to do this work, I definitely suggest getting these. I'm not sure if you can find these at Michael's, but I got them in a day from Amazon for like, I don't know, dirt cheap. But they're definitely handy. You can tamp it down just like that. You can run that across. You have the different shapes that will really help you get that weld looking the way you want it to. I really like using green stuff for this step, though for the life of me, I cannot find the 30-foot piece I had. And a tip, don't buy that tiny little strip for like 12 bucks. You can usually find a larger roll on Amazon for much, much less. And honestly, it would show up much better on camera when trying to demonstrate this technique. It's always incredibly rewarding to create something yourself, whether it's adding weld seams or putting armor texture on armor. Okay, that makes sense. I'm really glad I took the time for this step. It's getting late and I'm tired. And once it's painted, it's going to pop so much more than the stock kit parts ever could. Alright, bear with me. We're almost done, and my voice is about as punchy as Rocky's. So let's just ramble a bit and ride this out until the very end. So you want to continuously use that. Oh, wait a second. We're supposed to ramble. Okay, let's ramble. I like to do things a bit differently. Yeah, I enjoy building a tank and weathering it, just as it is, an Italian tank or a German tank or whatever. But like I said, this is going to be a zombie tank. What exactly does that mean? It means I'm going to do some real heavy weathering, and I'm going to do some alterations to the crew, try to add some skeletal bits and things like that. Wish I had a 3D printer and I can print something. That'd be really cool. Maybe one day. But it's going to be a zombie tank. Should be a lot of fun, and that, my name of the channel is Reimagine Models, so I'm reimagining this model into a zombie tank. So I'm always going to have those normal builds, that's like, just building a tank and weathering and things like that, but I do want to do more of these type of builds, because to me it's more interesting, and I think to you it would be interesting as well, because how many times can you watch someone build a Panzer IV-F? It gets a little boring after a while. It's gotta be interesting. Oh, and by the way, this little tool was made from a soda can, and yes, I got it from who. It works. What works. But back to my builds. Yeah, Reimagine Models. That was always the idea. Like I mentioned before in the video, taking a couple Moss tanks and putting them together and making a big, huge tank. But unfortunately, at this point, I would have to do a lot of Instacart driving just to afford the kits and all the Friulmodel tracks and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's what this channel is eventually going to be. As always, I will still have the regular builds. So right now, one regular build and one Reimagine build for the month. Main videos coming out on Sundays, trying to get on track to a schedule, but it's tough. The hawk is hawking at me. Make more money. Oh, okay. All right, let's get back to the build for a little bit. I use my knife to make the, weld marks. Maybe do a little research, look at some photos, but mainly you're going to see the walk-around photos with tanks 80 years later, so they may be a little different welds, or they may have been done by, modern people. So try to look at historical photos when you can, but it's difficult because they're often grainy and black and white and hard to see. But here she is. I am very happy on the way she came out, and one of my viewers, subscribers mentioned how easy this kit was to build and what fun it was, and he was right. It's a great kit. And speaking of comments, I've been getting some really good comments lately, a lot of suggestions, tips, and things like that, which I'm gonna follow, like making a longer video, which I did today. Oh, that was a tough one. I have to get used to it. But I'm very happy the way it came out. It's in sub-assemblies, as you can see, the tracks there. But I am going to take everything apart, and this week we will get some paint on it. All right, see you later.